I think honestly, one of the biggest barriers that people have to get through to be successful and to grow in this sport is letting go of your ego. Because
Yeah.
even to this day, I'll go out there and I'll say, okay, I need to do an easy run. And I'll sit there and I'll be running 10, 11, 12, sometimes 13-minute miles. And I'll sit there and I'll think like, man, like, who's going to see this on my Strava? Like, this is, what are people going to think about me? And I'll have that come into my mind. And I've gotten better at just saying like, I don't care. Who cares? Like, I'm running this for me. And when I'm done with this run, I know that I've done what I'm supposed to do. But being able to let go of that is not always easy.
Yeah. Well, and you should, right? Like, dude, especially you. Like, I always love it because I just think back to like you at Bear or when you came so close to Boston qualifying a few years back. And like, dude, like if anyone would ever challenge like your commitment or like your speed or your ability, like they're just training wrong, in my opinion. Like you are training correctly because you're taking the hand that's been given you and you're attacking the you're talking it the best way you possibly can.
Running is a strange thing. Some people find it on the sidewalk at sunrise. Some find it deep in the mountains, chasing daylight. And some of us find it when life feels heavy, and running is the only thing that makes sense. For some, it starts with 5K. For others, it's a marathon. And for a few, it's 100 miles that changes everything. But somewhere between the first step and the finish line, something happens. Running stops being about pace, or distance, or medals. It becomes about purpose. I'm your host, Ryan Head, and this is Reimagine Running, the podcast dedicated to talking about why we run. Each episode, we'll sit down with runners from every background, trail runners, road runners, beginners, veterans, and talk about their journey. Not just where they've run, but why they run. Because for many of us, running didn't just change our fitness, it helped us find clarity, healing, discipline, hope, and sometimes even ourselves. Whether your why was born on a short loop around the block, or somewhere deep inside a long, lonely mile, this podcast is for you. Welcome to Reimagine Running.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Reimagine Running. I am so excited, not only for another episode, but for my guest today. My guest today is one of my best friends in this world. I'm sure people are like, dude, everyone's his best friend, but truly, this is one of my best friends. I am super excited to have Nate Allred on this podcast with me today. Nate is a very dear friend to me. I say this because Nate has been there for me on every one of my 100 milers. Not only has he been there for every one of my 100 milers, he has been at every one of them, whether he's been pacing me, whether he's been my crew chief, or he's been running as well. And we'll get to that story. I know I've shared that story quite a few times on other podcasts, my adventures on Antelope Island in 2023. But we will talk about that. We'll talk about other runs. But Nate is, you know, I, 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 s- I said I wouldn't be doing any more intros myself, but looks like I'm going to be giving an intro to Nate as well because I know Nate very well. He's a good friend. But I'll just give a little story about Nate, and then we'll let him introduce himself, give a little bit more about who he is. But Nate Allred, he has been running for quite a few years now. He has completed many marathons. He is someone that's been on that journey to Boston qualify, and he has come very, very close to doing so. Last year in 2025, Nate signed up and completed the Bear 100, did it for his very first 100 miler in a blistering 30-hour finish. It was impressive for someone on their very first 100 miler. Nate lives here in the Davis County area of Utah. Again, he's been running for quite a few years now, and I'm just excited to have him on. Again, just a good friend, someone who just means a lot to me. So anyways,
Thanks,
Nate,
Ryan.
welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. This is super cool. I appreciate you inviting me on and for the kind words. It's definitely goes both ways. You're an awesome friend, and I'm happy to share what I can. So let's dive into it.
Awesome, dude. Well, again, I've been excited, when I came up, and I know me and you, I've told you a few times about the podcast, just my ideas and, some of the stuff that I've been thinking of for quite a few years now. You are definitely the person one of the few people that I knew immediately I wanted to interview when I created this podcast, and there's a few reasons for that. Um, One, because you're a good friend, and me and you can talk about running. We can talk about life. We can talk about we me and Nate have known each other for a few years now, and we have some fun stories we can share. Yeah, we know each other's families very well, and what have you. But the other main reason why is, um, Nate is, dude, you're the type of person I know will get the job done when it comes to training. Um, and you'll push yourself and you'll make it work. And sometimes the results aren't there, and I think a lot of times that's out of your control. If you want me to be completely honest, I think you're doing the very best that you can given the circumstances. And I think that's what impresses me the most about you. Just as I've gotten to know you and as we've ran for whatever it's been now, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever amount of time we've been running. So, dude, let's just jump into it. Here we go.
Let's do it.
I'll throw the first question at you. Uh, like, when did running become what it is for you right now? Like, when did you start running? Why did you get into it? Yeah, whether that was when you were a teenager, youth, whatever it is, or maybe it was when you're an adult.
I think if I think back to kind of my history and when running showed up on my radar, it wasn't until 2017, 2018, really. I mean, I had run before then. I think everybody has, running is just something that kids do,
Mhm.
and it's a part of most sports. When I was growing up and in junior high and high school, I had no interest in running just to run. Um, Running was something that I really didn't enjoy, and I remember my first time actually having to run what I felt like was a long distance was back in elementary, having to run the 500 or whatever the distance they had you run, and I just did not enjoy it. I mean, it was painful. I didn't feel like I was good at it. I was one of the slower in my group, and I just remember, the little kids who were, like, right at the front, and I was like, "How did they get so fast? Why am I so slow?" And I didn't really enjoy it, and then, in high school, I think my perception of runners was, there's the little skinny kids that couldn't make it into any other sport, and they're doing this cross country thing, and I'm like, I just didn't have any desire to do it. I had a couple sisters that ran cross country, and I always admired their sort of discipline and their hard work, but I just didn't have any interest. Um, I think the first time I really did run, and I don't know if I even told you this, Ryan, but probably like 5 years after I was married, and that would have been probably 2010, my wife, Claire, decided she wanted to run a marathon, and she invited me to do a half with her. And so I
Mhm.
did the Ogden Half back probably 2010. I don't remember how fast I did it. I remember training out in the pasture. We have kind of a horse pasture, and I remember going around in circles and, like, stepping in horse, divots in the ground and, like, rolling my ankle. And then I remember running the race with those, like, there was a Garmin that you strapped on your wrist. It was just a big old thing, probably
Mhm.
like, 3 inches by an inch and a half, and I wore that. And, again, I don't remember what my time was. I didn't really enjoy it that much, but that was kind of the first time I did probably really do an actual race. And so then, I did a couple 5Ks and different things after that, but not until 2017 did it really kind of become something I fell in love with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's really cool. I knew the story that Claire had done something to get you into running. I
Yeah.
just didn't know what it was. I've heard that story, before, whether that was you or Claire had told me. So that's awesome. That's crazy.
Yeah,
And you're out there running in divots and stuff, like trying not to twist your ankle.
I
That's
know. And
awesome.
even back then, I remember having shin splints, so I even back then, I was getting injured in it, so
Well, we're gonna get to that. I'm excited because the reason, like, as you know, and you've listened to a few of the podcast episodes now. The main reason for the podcast is what's your why, right? And I'll get to that with you, and I don't want to spoil it for our listeners because your why is fascinating. I'm sure it is because what you go through physically, just tells so much about who you are and your character. So I'm excited to get to that point. We'll get there. I promise we will. Um, so walk me through what happened in 2017. Like, what changed? What got you past just being a casual runner, if you will, if casual is the right word for it?
So what happened, was I was kinda going through a little bit of like a ju just a low point in life, to be honest, like, um, I was kind of, into my career, doing pretty well. My kids were to the point where, they weren't babies anymore, they were getting a little bit older, and I was just feeling I remember I was feeling kinda depressed, and I was feeling lazy. I remember sleeping in on Saturdays almost every week, watching more TV than I wanted to, just feeling generally unmotivated and excited about just my own personal achievements and where I was in life.
Mhm.
And I remember seeing a guy, in my neighborhood at the time and hearing, he told me that he was a runner, that he was into running, and I heard him talk about how he wake up early and run 5 miles, a few times a week, and I was like, "That's crazy." Like, it must be he must have a lot of discipline to do that, and I remember thinking, like, maybe I should try to do that. Maybe I would feel like I'd be more motivated in life, or like I'd stop feeling like I was so lazy or such a sloth or whatever. But I never really did it. It was just kind of in the back of my mind. Um, but in 2017, we were at like a family get together, reunion, and my sister-in-law, who ran in college, had decided to train for St. George Marathon. And she just kind of casually asked me and Claire, she's like, "Hey, do you guys want to run it with me?" And my first thought was like, "No, like that's stupid. Why would I do that?" But then I kind of thought about it. I'm like, what else am I going to do? Like, I'm not doing anything else hard. And who's to say that I can't train for it and finish a marathon? Like, I might as well do it once in my life. So I did, and, started training. I remember, like, just my first few runs were really hard. I just, like, I remember thinking, like, "Okay, I can get through 3 miles. There is no way I'm gonna be able to do 26 miles." So I went through that and, like, just going through the training process, running the marathon, I just kind of fell in love with the whole process and really loved the race. Today, to this day, St. George Marathon is my favorite race of all time. I love St. George, and I would run it every year. And now ultras are kind of getting in my way of that, but I just really loved that race.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. I always have to ask because I love hearing people's, and again, no one's here to judge free zone, right? Or judgment free zone, as they say. What was, I mean, obviously St. George was your first marathon, as it sounds. What was your time? I'm so curious. What was your
I
split
I
or
would have
whatever?
to I'd have to go back and look at the exact time, but it was somewhere in the range of 4 hours and 45 minutes. I remember it was
Nice.
under 5, but it was definitely over 4, and my mindset going into it was like, I wanna just finish, like, that's all I care about. So as I trained, my kinda natural pace that I was finding and, like, sinking into was, like, 10, 11-minute miles,
Yeah.
and going up to the race, I was getting injured, and I had to, like, cut back on my mileage, but I'm like, going into race day, I was just like, "I'm just gonna lock in to like 11-minute miles. And if it feels good, I might speed up a little bit, but I'm not going to kill myself. I want to get through." And I was like expecting the last 5 or 6 miles to be horrible.
Yeah.
And they actually weren't. I enjoyed it. Like I felt good. And so it was a good first experience because I didn't push so hard that I totally like killed myself off.
That's cool. That's interesting. I'm fascinated that your first marathon went so well for you because, as I've chatted with other people and, as I've talked about a couple of times already on these episodes, my first marathon was awful. Dude, I mean, my first marathon, like I've said a few thousand times, the end of it was a nightmare. And it was because I I had this really dumb idea that on my very first marathon, I wanted to run it like the old Olympians did or whoever it was that ran,
Yep.
marathons. And I was like, you don't need water and you don't need food. Like,
Yep.
that's such a stupid idea. Like, I am fully aware that it's
Yep.
a dumb idea, but that was my thought process. I was like, nope, everyone says you got to do that at least once. And so I remember getting to the Spillway at Ogden Marathon, and I was like, "I'm not feeling good." And
Oh
that's
yeah.
mile 17, 18,
Yep.
and then things just went sideways. So it's cool to hear your story that your first one, you're like, "No, it went really good. I found that it was enjoyable," because I think that's what hooks a lot of people. I think what mostly hooks people is everyone's like, "Well, I think I could do better than that."
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm glad it was a good experience for you. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was like, honestly, if I could pick a perfect race day conditions, I would pick that first marathon because there was like a light rain the entire course. It was cloudy the whole time. Um, there was no heat exhaustion involved, and I don't think I definitely wasn't focused on nutrition. I
Mhm.
probably took a little drink at every aid station, but I didn't know what I was doing, but, like, the conditions were just good, and I wasn't pushing it. I was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna hold back," and so that I don't, like, experience too much pain.
I love it. I love it. Well, I've said this now a couple of times, and I'll probably almost say it like in every episode. This is the public service announcement that if you're a new runner or you've never ran a marathon before, hydration, nutrition is so important. Try to get that dialed in. Not everybody has the Nate Allred experience. It can be scary. That like especially if you're just underfueled or your hydration's off, your electrolytes are off, it can get scary. So that's why, you try to figure that stuff out. I know it's not one size fits all, right? That's why
Totally.
sometimes it's important to hire like a coach,
Yep,
hire a nutritionist, whatever. Get that dialed in because I know a lot of people will try to get that stuff figured out. So, anyways, it's just cool to hear that that went so good for you. So, um, continue down the path, man. Like I don't want to get into ultras yet. I want to
yeah.
stay on the path of road marathons, but I'd love to hear more about your road history. Like, and again, I'm really after one race in particular, and I know which one you're probably thinking, but where you got so close to Boston qualifying. But yeah, I mean, tell us any other stories regarding your
Yeah.
path to getting so close. And I don't want to spoil. You tell because I have my thoughts about that whole situation.
Yeah, so I think after that first, marathon with St. George, my mindset was like, "Hey, I'm gonna take a break. I'm gonna sort of recover and I don't know, I might run again, I might not," but it sort of just lit a fire in me to say, like, "Okay, that felt pretty good." And I actually really liked how it felt to, like, work really hard at something, set a goal, track my progress, overcome challenges, and make it happen, and I really liked that experience of it, and then I started thinking, "Okay, like, I wonder if I could go faster," and I remember one comment that a guy made that really kinda, like, made me mad at the time, and he told my sister-in-law because she ran about the same as us, but a little bit faster. She wasn't really pushing it at the time, but he said, "Oh, yeah, if anybody who finishes in over 4 hours isn't really running, like, that's jogging," and I was like, "Okay." Like, first of all, this guy's kinda arrogant, I'm not a big fan of his, but the second thing, I'm
Mhm.
like, "I bet I could go faster."
Yeah.
I don't know if I could, but I bet I could, and then I started, learning about Boston, and here's one that's like, you don't have to be elite, but you have to be pretty fast to qualify in it, and I was like I told my wife, I remember telling Claire, I said, I wanna qualify for Boston. I wanna, like, train and get there." And she was kinda like, "Well, um, some people just kind of have that talent." And she's like, "Justine's got that talent." She's like, I don't know that that's a good goal for you." And, I don't know exactly how she worded it, but she basically kinda said, "No, you don't have it in you," type of thing. And she wasn't trying to
Mhm.
be mean, and, like, that's not Claire. She's always encouraging, but I think she's just telling me, like, realistically, "Hey, like, don't set don't set yourself up for disappointment." But I remember
Yeah.
thinking at the time, I'm like, "I don't believe that. I don't buy that." I know I can qualify for it, and
Mhm.
it's just a matter of work and how much I put in and the time. And so I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this." And so I really started kind of focusing a little bit more on pace, and I did a lot more research on, like, what does a plan look like? How do you really build up? How do you get faster? And so, I won't get into all the stuff that I tried, but that was really where my journey started on trying to do the problem solving, the study, the research, the practice to try and get faster.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. A couple of things that came to my mind as you were saying that. Um, it's always good to have loved ones that are just realistic with you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the beauty of a spouse. I can tell you right now that I still remember the day I told Jessica I was gonna run Wasatch. I know right where I was at. I waited for my company party, Christmas party to tell her that I was gonna do it, and at the time I know, it's so
You're like, "Merry
stupid.
Christmas is what I'm doing."
Dude, I purposely did it where I was in public because I knew she would, like, blow a gasket. I knew it was gonna happen. So I was like, "I'm gonna be in public. I'm gonna be, like, just do my best to, like, save my behind." And so I'm
Yeah.
like, I was just like, I and it was funny because I was in front of a very prominent Utah who's a politician, and I was just like, he was asking me, he's like, "So what's on your race calendar for 2023?" And I was like, "Um, had this crazy idea. I'm gonna do the Wasatch 100." And Jess was just like,
She's like, "What? No, you're not."
yeah. And I was like, "Oh, that's my plan. That's what I want to do." And she's just like, we're gonna talk about this
Yeah.
afterwards." And I was like,
Yeah,
and
I can only imagine.
I was like, "Oh, man, it was the only way I could do it." I was like, and I remember Brad being like, "Okay, well, I wish you the best of luck with that. That sounds like a crazy idea." And I was
Yeah.
like, Thanks, Brad. I appreciate you.
Yep.
Appreciate the
He's like,
support."
"Idiot."
Yeah, I know, right? Like, seriously, I remember thinking he probably thinks I'm just nuts. So I get it, and it was funny because we had a lot of those same conversations. She's like, "I don't know if you should do it. I don't know if that's healthy," and, so on and so
Right.
forth. And I was like, "Come on, like, we're gonna be fine." Um but the other thing that, kind of as you were talking about just regarding Boston, and trying to get there and then people's times, Boston is a good goal. I think both of us feel the same way now. Like Boston's great. I think there's a lot of awesome goals that people can chase in running. Boston's a fun one, and I think a lot of people are naturally drawn to that because they're like, oh, it's the
Right.
line, if you will. But I do think also like I don't see a problem with people that take more than 4 hours to run a marathon, and I know you do too. I know you're like, "Dude, pace is fine, whatever people need to do, they need to do." But I just sometimes I get so frustrated when people say stuff like, "Oh, if you do longer than 4 hours, you're just jogging or you're just
Yeah.
walking," or
Yep.
because you mean, right? A marathon's hard. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's still 26.2 miles regardless of your pace, and
Yep.
so I that's why I always get frustrated when people say stuff like that. I'm like, doesn't really matter because like
Yeah.
we're still out there hammering away for 26.2 miles or
Yep.
100 miler. I'm not elite. I'm not probably ever going to be elite. So for me to be out there
Yeah.
for 34, 35, 36, whatever, like it's still real time. So anyways,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
agree, and
fascinating.
I think honestly, like, I never had any sort of visions of grandeur of myself. Like, I knew, and I think I'm self-aware enough to know that, like, hey, I'm a middle of the packer. I'm a average middle-aged guy, and sometimes it's actually kinda sad to think about how much time and energy I put into something so stupid as running. Honestly, like, people look at
I
me
love
like,
it.
I just feel bad for 'em. But but
I
but
feel bad
but
for
but
him.
my point is, like, if that's your only why and you're, you know, not any faster than, someone like me,
Mhm.
then it kind of is, sad, and you're gonna be disappointed, right? And you're gonna fall out of it
Yeah,
pretty quick. And so that definitely wasn't the only thing that motivated me at all. And again, I think that someone that's their only goal is gonna get disappointed really quickly and probably stop running.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think someone that runs a 4-hour marathon or a 5-hour marathon, in a lot of ways, that's a lot harder than even running a 3-hour marathon.
It is, yeah. Yeah, the pressure on the body and, how much you take doing that, you're 100% right. I think the same thing. I'm like, that's real miles. Like, that's
Totally.
real effort that you have to put on there. And, yeah, I mean, I have a funny story about that exact same thing where, I when I did Buffalo this in, the Buffalo 100 in 2025, I remember running into Chepe out there on the
Yep.
island. He had done the 50K the day before, and I was still coming through the finish line. I think I was mile 93, 94, coming, the finish line, and he came running by because he was just out having a good day. And I remember him being like, "You're still out here?" And I was like, "Come on, dude." Like, be like, "Really?" But
Yeah.
it wasn't like him making fun of me. I know
Yeah.
it wasn't because he's such a kind
No.
dude. He was just like, "Dude, you've been doing this for 26 hours now."
Yep.
And I did great. I got a 28-hour finish on Antelope, but um he was just like, "That's impressive, like, you're
It
still
is.
hammering away at it." And
Yep.
so, it's like what you just said, like, that's real time, man, like, doesn't matter, it's in some ways, it may be harder, like you said, for
Yeah.
people, so
Totally.
I love that you say that 'cause I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit here for you. And, we've been talking about your running and, you know, your first marathons and, obviously we're kind of leading, if you will, we're kind of going down the path of you getting faster. Um, I'd love for you if you feel comfortable with it, don't feel pressure, but if you feel comfortable telling people more a little bit about like your history, like your, basically what you deal with, right? Because
Yeah.
I have my issues with my knees, and I wish I could be faster. My right knee just doesn't want to move, and it's what I deal with in life,
Yep.
and I don't have a choice. It's what happens, and I make the best of my situation, and I don't allow it to stop me. Um, and whatnot. But yeah, I'd love for you to tell, if you feel good about it, man, I'd love for you to tell people kind of what you deal with.
Yeah, totally. I'm happy to. I think like running is one of those things that you're always hearing about runners saying, I'm getting injured. I have an injury. I'm trying to prevent injury, and I don't know how many dollars are made every year on running injury prevention programs and physical therapists and others that just are helping people with injuries. And so you go into a doctor, and this happened to me my first couple times, and I'm like, hey, this is what's happening to me. And their response is, and this is what most normal doctors will tell you is, okay, you need to stop running. Right.
Mhm.
My diagnosis is you ran too much and you're hurting your body. And so what I'm prescribing is you stop running.
Dude,
And
and I hate to interrupt you, but I had the exact freaking thing happen. Not
yeah.
only my physical therapist, but my, like, doctor that did surgery on my right knee back when I was in high school. So, I had the exact same experience as you.
Yeah. And so, that was what I heard. But, anybody who's really into running is not gonna accept that as an answer, and that to me was an opportunity of, okay, well, then I need to problem solve. I gotta figure out what I need to do, and so, like, you don't even wanna go down every path that I went through, but, because it is too long for this podcast, but, like, that's where you start to find out how obsessive and, you are as a runner. But, my biggest problem it was that I was getting, first I thought it was shin splints, but it kept getting worse and it ended up becoming stress fractures and I've got multiple stress fractures. I don't know how many throughout the time that I've been running. And I remember the first time that it really stopped me. So like when I was training for St. George, I was having shin splints and I knew that it was like getting worse and it wasn't getting better. So I kind of dialed back the mileage and I just kind of dealt with it. I did some bike riding and tried to stay in shape. And then I ran the marathon. I was good. I think the next marathon after that was one that I actually trained some with you, and that was
Yeah.
training for Ogden. And
Mhm.
and I was really trying to do a plan and follow the plan. And I'm like, I got to get my mileage up or I'm never going to be able to get faster. And so I was trying to get up to 40, 50 miles. But every time I'd get to like 25 miles per week, my body would start breaking down, and it was always my shins, it was my lower legs, and so I'd go in and see doctors, and they would take you through and do an assessment, and I had um, MRIs, and whatever they are, and it came back that okay, you don't just have shin splints, you've got a stress fracture, and you need to stop running or you need to dial back, and and I actually remember when I first called and told you about that, I was like, "Hey, Ryan, I got my MRI results back. I got a stress fracture." And you just I remember how bad for me you felt because you're like, "Oh, no, that means his training's over." But I was able to kinda take a little bit of time off, come back, and actually do the race, and actually, I remember running Ogden for that first time, and I had a stress fracture at the time, and it wasn't
Yeah.
so bad that I had a full break through my leg, but it hurt every step, and that race definitely made it worse, and so my recovery after that first Ogden was probably 8 to 10 weeks, and so, and then that just kinda was the story after that. Every time I'd get up to 25 miles, 30 miles a week, I'd have the same thing happen.
Yeah.
So again, like I went into problem solving mode and tried to figure out how do I get over this? So my doctors were like, okay, well, if you don't want to accept the diagnosis and the prescription of stop running, then you should look into bone density. You should look into gait analysis. How are you running? Are you running in a way that's causing you to get injured in your lower legs? Are you using a lot of braking forces? And that's creating bigger impacts. So I did multiple running gait analyses, and they came back with, suggestions here and there, but nothing like super helpful, right? They give you stretches, they give you workouts. You got to strengthen your hips, you got to strengthen your calves, you got to strengthen your core. And so I did all those. I got really into weightlifting. I, tried to strengthen my body. I've done so many like hip exercises for the glute med and the glute, my glutes and all these things. And I think all those things helped. I think they helped me become a faster runner. I think they helped me become a better runner, but they have never actually prevented me from getting injured. So I went back and, I did DEXA scans. I got my bone density done, and that's where it came back that, oh, actually, you do have problems with bone density, and got diagnosed with osteopenia, which is not like that's the precursor to osteoporosis. And me being a 40-year-old man, I was probably 36, 37 at the time. I always felt like I was a strong guy. I assumed that I had super good bone density. I lifted weights. I'm always very active. I work out on a farm. I've got my own little hobby farm. I work with animals. Like that kind of just blew me away. Okay, so I'm almost have osteoporosis and I'm not even 40. And so that really hit me hard. And so then that took me down a different path of trying to improve.
Yeah. Dude, man, just hearing you talk about that brings back so many memories, man. And just like, because me and Nate, we've been running like, I always say he's the OG member of my running club. Him and my older brother Kyle, the three of us, we would we would do runs for Fleet Feet. Those were good times. Um, and like we've been running for so long, and just hearing this story over again, just brings back so many memories and so many emotions. Cause like you said, my heart would always go out to you. Part of me was always like grateful. I'm like, good, the sucker's not in the race with me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but I just, but I know I'm just joking, but like, I just remember just my heart feeling like just going out to you. And, as you have fought through this and tried to figure everything out, I know it's been a battle for you. So, like, we'll just go to it, man. Why? Why do you do this? Like, why do you
Yeah,
even keep going down this path of, because even now, and, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but you still deal with it. It's
yeah,
not gone away. But why, man? Like, why do you
yeah.
even care to do this anymore?
I mean, I think there's lots of reasons, and anybody who runs probably has a lot of similar reasons, and everybody's got their own unique reasons as well. I think a lot of it goes back to what got me to run in the first place, which was I needed a challenge, to stay sharp, to stay disciplined, to get strong. Um, like I've got 4 kids, and we didn't talk a lot about my family, but I as I've raised kids, one things that I've realized is, um, with kids, um, one of the things that brings confidence in children is learning and believing that they can actually do hard things. And I've seen my kids like, sit there and play on screens and play video games, and then I've noticed how they feel about themselves after that. And then I've seen them do really hard things and really focus and work hard, and then I've seen how they feel about themselves after doing that. And it builds their confidence. It makes them, like, proud of themselves. It makes them happier, and I feel that same way about running. It is something that's hard. It is something that has challenges, but at the core, it's also something that, um, requires a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work, and when you're done with it, you feel better about yourself, and you feel proud of the work that you've done. Um, and I feel proud of the achievements and the improvements I've made, even though, I may look back and be like, okay, well, I keep getting injured. Okay, well, I could be a lot faster if I didn't get injured, or if my body type was different. If I wasn't 6'6" and 215 pounds, I could be a lot faster. but, I still learned a lot about myself and gained a lot of confidence in doing that. So that's one reason, right? That's not my only reason. I love
Yeah.
the social aspect too. I'm different than you. I'm not as social. I don't love being there with a big group. I love the OG running club of me, you, and Kyle. I love going out and doing a peak with my friend Spencer Wicker. Like I love the small groups with the people that I know really well, but it is a social aspect too, and I really like the friendship that have come with that. So that's big, right? Like,
Yeah.
after every injury, I sit there and I think to myself, okay, what can I do different? I don't want to do this anymore. This is stupid. Like, I keep getting injured. I like the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing and expecting different result. But but at the end of the day, I come back to, hey, like this is giving me something important. And just because I can't do it as good as other people doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it.
That's amazing, dude. I love it, man. And it's funny how, like, so a lot of stuff that you've said really resonates with me because I think sometimes we are our own worst enemy and what we think about ourselves, right? Because you touched on, you're like, well, like what would I be if I had a perfect body, right? Or if I
Right.
had this or I had that, and like I'd be lying to you if I said I don't think about the same thing with like,
Yeah.
with my knee. I'm always, I've said it before and I'll say it again, man. If I had two left knees, because my left knee is the, not reconstructed one, my right knee's been reconstructed twice. If I had two knees, man, like I think I'd be dangerous. Like
Totally.
I mean, man, I can move fast and I'm like, I can do this with restrictions where I can't even bend my knee past like 100 degrees, bending it backwards. And so I'm like,
Yep.
if I could do the true movement, how good would I be? But like you said, I think that's just like I don't know. It's how like our brains will trick us and like make us think that we're not like good enough or we're not worthy
Yeah.
or whatever the crap it is. Because like again, I know I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse on this one, but like you kicked butt, man. Like you destroyed the Bear 100 this year in 2025 or last year in 2025. Like what you did there was impressive. Like, and I know we're going to get to that race. We're going to unpack that one here in a second, but like, dude, like that was crazy. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, one, I hope he's not going too hard, but two, I just remember checking in with my crew because me and Nate were running it together, not like staying together. We talked like we need to leave each other and do our own things. But I remember just talking to my crew and they're just like, Nate's killing it. Like he's crushing it. And I'm like, oh man, like it was like the most awesome, like, I don't know if it's redemption story, but just like feel good story, man, because of just all the stuff you've been through. And it's just cool to hear your why because I know you have been through it, man. Like, some people have mental stuff and I'm not saying that you
Yeah.
don't. And some people have emotional stuff, some people have spiritual stuff. But like you are the definition of someone that just deals with the physical crap, and it's incessant, and I'm just like, I mean, sometimes I'm just like, "Oh, dude, my heart just goes out to this guy." So, it's just super cool. I mean, it's so cool to see that you just keep going through it. So, I mean,
Well, thanks.
you're truly an example to so many of us out there because you just don't like, and I'm not advocating people to get hurt. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is like you continue to plug away and try to find a way to make it happen. And I see that from you. And I think that's an example to so many people out there that no matter what whatever your issue is in life, right? Whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, you name it. You don't let that stop you. You keep plugging, you keep going, you try to find new ways to solve that problem, and be successful in life. And you clearly define that, man. You clearly show that through your actions.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that, and it's one of those things where, like, when you first start getting injured, when I first started having that happen, at first I was like, everybody's just gonna think that I'm using this as an excuse to not go out and do my long runs or to cut back my mileage, and so I would kind of feel that, um, but one of the things that I learned throughout the whole process, and I'm still learning, is, um, you should not push through injury. You need to know how, like, which injuries to push through and which not to, right? There are some injuries you can sort of work your way through and you can deal with and you can continue running if you're smart about it. There are others where you should not continue to
Yeah,
run. Like if you've got a stress fracture, you shouldn't go push through that, right? If you've got, an actual torn ligament, I don't know all the other things. My big thing is I know
sure.
what it means to have a stress fracture and I know what it requires to get over that. And so there's a very fine line there. And one of the things I learned is like, don't just push through the injury. You gotta like be smart. I've learned you don't run your fast tempo pace every single run. And you as a coach, I know you teach your athletes this, but there is a time to run real, really easy. There's a time to run fast. There's a time to like build in tempo and to build in, intervals, but there's also a time to go really slow. And there's also time to take a few days off, right? And so like all those things have really helped probably more than anything, right? Just kind of knowing what your limits are, being able to understand, okay, what am I feeling? What's my body telling me? And not totally giving up when you feel that, but like building a plan and really learning to problem solve through those things.
Yeah. No, I love it, and I think you again, you're spot on, and again, that's why we just get along so well is I think we see things so similar. Um, like, you're right, like, being disciplined enough because I mean, so many of us when we get out running, very first couple years or whatnot, every run you're like, I want to go hard, and you're like, every time I want to be like a 7:30 pace, I want to be 8-minute pace, and I still remember to this day those first few years, and I remember being like, if I have an overall pace on Strava above like an 8:20, that was a wasted run. I
Yeah.
remember, which is so
Yeah,
bad.
I know.
Like, it's so bad to say that, but, like, more people I talk to, we've all been this way. Like, I think you've been that way. Tim has been that way. I know I've talked to Jacob about this. Like, I can go on forever. Eric Sutterfield's this way. Like,
Yeah.
we all have had, like, that imaginary line that we thought, if you were slower than that, it was a wasted run, like,
Yeah.
and you're pathetic.
I think honestly, one of the biggest barriers that people have to get through to be successful and to grow in this sport is letting go of your ego. Because
Yeah.
even to this day, I'll go out there and I'll say, okay, I need to do an easy run. And I'll sit there and I'll be running 10, 11, 12, sometimes 13-minute miles. And I'll sit there and I'll think like, oh man, like who's going to see this on my Strava? Like what are people going to think about me? And I'll have that come in my mind. And I've gotten better at just saying like, I don't care. Who cares? Like I'm running this for me. And when I'm done with this run, I know that I've done what I'm supposed to do. But being able to let go of that is not always easy.
Yeah. Well, and you should, right? Like, dude, especially you, like, but everybody should be that way. But, especially like, I always love it because I just think back to like you at Bear or when you came so close to Boston qualifying a few years back. And like, dude, like if anyone would ever challenge like your commitment or like your speed or your ability, like they're just training wrong in my opinion. Like you are training correctly because you're taking the hand that's been given you and you're attacking the you're talking it the best way you possibly can. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm like that and like you said, like, it is such an ego thing because me too. I'm guilty as much as I'm sure a lot of us are
Yeah.
of, like, being like, having that ego and being like, "Oh, no, like, I gotta keep my pace at this or whatever." And then, right, you've been pushing hard on every one of your runs, and you never took a rest day, and then you get to marathon and you can't go you're like you die off at mile 12 because
Yep.
you're like, all I ever did was go hard every day and your body's not even fully recovered. So it's
Totally.
just funny. It's funny how that all works out. So
Yep.
did you yeah, you said it perfectly. So awesome. Well, dude, before we get to the Bear 100, I want to hear about your successes with road running. Like I want to hear some of these crazy stories because again, we've set up where you're at, right? We know that you have again, not osteoporosis. I always forget the exact
Yeah.
terminology for it, but basically the pre-stages of osteoporosis. But you go and you crush some marathons. Let's tell these stories,
Yeah.
man. I want to hear about your road marathon successes.
So I always say that like one of the biggest and most important skills as a runner is learning how to problem solve. And
Yeah.
a lot of the early problem solving I did was around like my health issues, right? And so I really went down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out bone density and how I could solve that. It's actually improved every single year since I've had that initial
That's
DEXA
awesome.
scan, and some of that's through, actual medication that I've been put on. Some of it's through weight training. I learned that doing heavy weights and doing it consistently actually adds bone density, and I didn't know that, and so that's been huge, incorporating that, and I spent a whole year just, like, pounding that, and it that probably helped more than anything, is just doing heavy lifting and doing it smart. So I did a lot of that, and I think all those things made me a smarter runner and a better runner, but I think the other thing that I did from a problem-solving standpoint is I found out that certain types of running, allowed me to go longer distances. Going out and just pounding the pavement every single day on the same path was not the path to success for me. I found out that, the whole concept of doing easy runs, and to me for me, that means that rather than going, like, as fast as I can go of 7-minute miles, 7:30, 8, whatever, sometimes I need to go 10, 11, 12-minute miles even on a flat surface. So I incorporated a lot more of that. But the biggest thing actually of all, I think, was finding trail running, right? So
Yeah.
um, the surface helps, running on dirt, that helped me a lot, but even more than that is the climbing and the uphill and how the fact that, our bodies when we're running uphill h take a lot less pounding and a lot less impact than when we're going on flat or downhill, and so, finding trails and discovering that was a big key in helping me get faster, and I remember the first time that I realized that I was getting faster, I went and ran St. George one year, and this was after really getting into, like, bagging peaks and really finding a love for being up in the mountains, and I went and ran St. George, and I wasn't even trying to go super fast. I was like, "Hey, I'd be happy if I beat a 4-hour pace or a 4-hour marathon." But I just went, it felt good, and I got, like, 3.5 hours, and so I was kinda blown away. So I'm like, "Man, I can do this. I can get faster."
Yeah.
And, I honestly think that a big part of that was, the weight training and the trails and the climbing. It just made me a stronger runner. Running up to Temp and back, that's a 4 or 5-hour thing, right? So that built
Mhm.
my endurance a lot more than going out and running 1 hour on the roads. And doing more of that, I think really, really helped me. So anyway, I got to 3.5 hours, and that's where I kinda had a fire lit where I'm like, "Hey, I can qualify for Boston. I just gotta get a little bit faster." And so, that's really what led me to that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I still remember when you did that, dude. I remember when you hit that 3.5 down there at St. George. And part of me, I'm not gonna lie, part of me was jealous because I was like,
Right.
"Oh, that sucker, he did it and I haven't."
Yeah.
Um, but part of me was so proud of you too because I just knew, like, everything you've been through, and you're like, "Dude, you figured something out," because how many times have you been trying to run and then it's just injury after injury, and then now you've got something, like, you've lit something, so that's awesome, man. Well, take us to the couple of other marathons that got you even faster than that.
Yeah, so at that point, I'm like, "Hey, I think I can do this." Um, I need to really lock in and focus, and a big part of my training was still gonna be trails, like, I knew that. I knew I was gonna have to incorporate uphill treadmill days, right, where I'm just, like, locking in on the treadmill at 15% incline, and I'm just hammering away at the most boring thing that I could possibly imagine doing, and I hate doing treadmills, but I realized that that was actually an important part. And the other thing is I asked you to coach me, right? I was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, Ryan, help me out here." You had just decided to start coaching, and I'm like, "Hey, I need some help. I need someone that can look at this from the outside and, give me some guidance, tell me when I need to slow down, tell me when I need to push, what are my miles that I need to get?" And so that was another big part of this, but, I also researched, okay, what would be a good fast downhill marathon? So I found one that was actually on dirt, but it was, fairly downhill, fairly consistent, and, put the plan in place and just really worked at it, and as you remember, I got close. I got really close. I was within, like, I don't know, 5 minutes or, 3 to 5 minutes. I was really close, and I've gotten close again, like, I've done that a few times,
Oh,
and, I'm not done trying. I mean,
yeah.
I think there are days when you're like, "Hey, Nate, like, when are you just gonna transition up fully over to trails and ultras?" And I'm like, when I get Boston." And even after that,
Awesome.
I don't think I'm gonna fully do it because there's something about a fast road marathon that's just fun,
Yeah.
and I wanna just continue always having that be part of my running experience. So,
Yeah.
yeah, like, we'll see what happens. It may take me a year, it may take me 5 years, it may take me 10 years, but I'm gonna get there at some point. And,
Yeah.
even if I don't, I'm having a lot of fun doing it and just pushing. Like,
Yeah.
again, it's not all about hitting a BQ. It's not all about hitting a PR every time, but it that does kinda add some fun to it for me.
Yeah. Well, dude, first off, I know you'll do it because you've proven over and over and over that you're just as determined and, I wouldn't say it's stubborn, but dude, you're just like so dedicated. You're like, I'm gonna do this. And there is times where I'm like, I kind of take Claire's approach. I'm like, bro, like I'm getting worried about you.
Yeah,
Uh, because it's like, oh, here we go again, right? And trying to keep you healthy. But I love that I love that you just go after it, man. Like you're like, I'm gonna do it. Like it's gonna happen and you're consistent and you keep pushing and I know you'll get there. For our listeners, it's kind of funny because when Nate got within like that 5 minutes of Boston qualifying, he wouldn't say it. I know he wouldn't, but I'm gonna say it for him. Um, he was so close, and he was only a year away from the new age bracket. So if it had been like a year later, he would have Boston qualified. And it's like, oh, are you
yeah,
kidding me? And we were that close, like so close. And but he had a great race. He did everything right. I 100% believe that. He felt good. He was able to deliver. He was able to stay pretty close to the pace he needed to be. And um, it is what it is. But I just remember being like, oh, all we needed was one more year. If he was just a year older, yeah, you would have Boston qualified. And it's just cool. It's cool to see that journey in you, to see you get to that point. And I don't know. I that's why I believe you'll do it because I don't see you giving up. And I just think you're gonna get there. So
well, and someone out there is, like, playing games with me too, right? Because like, had it been 1 year later, I woulda got it. The next year, um, they pushed out the Boston qualifying time by 10
mhm,
minutes, and so, like, I barely turned that age, and I'm like, "Okay, now they're moving the needle." Um, 6 months later, they pushed it out 10 more minutes for downhill marathon. So I'm like, "Who keeps doing this? What is going on?" But they know that, like, the challenge keeps me interested and yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it's just one more thing and it makes it fun, right? Like, at the end of the day, let's be honest, if I never BQ, I'm still gonna look back at my running experience over the years and be like, I wouldn't trade it for anything because, it gave me the friends that I've got, it gave me fitness, it gave me adventure, and, and it was just fun chasing that. So, I don't think anybody would look at all the things that I've accomplished or that you've accomplished and say, "What a waste of time," just because we didn't hit one arbitrary time target.
love it, dude. Perfect, perfectly said, and I second that exactly. Um, okay, well, let's transition to trails. Um, I've had some great experiences with you. Like I kind of led with, you've been there for every one of my hundreds. You've always been my crew chief outside of I think once or twice. Um, and you've always paced me when you're there and it's just been fun to have you there. And so nothing was better than this year or sorry, last year in 2025 for you to get into the Bear 100 and now he gets to roll the dice. And I remember just being like, Nate's going to crush it. Like I just have this feeling you're going to do so good and you're just going to be able to send it. So tell us a little bit about your training for it and dude, how the race went for you.
Yeah. So if I rewind to last year, I was kind of where I am at right now, right? I knew that I wanted to do a 100 miler, but I also knew I wanted to do a road race. And I had signed up for Mount Charleston last year, same as this year. And I was training for it and I was pushing and I was feeling good. And then lo and behold, as always, I had a stress fracture. I actually fractured my fibula, which is the first time I've ever fractured that. It was so weird. I was running on the Bonneville Shoreline Trail didn't feel any pain. I felt fine. I was going fast. I felt great. Next day, I wake up and there's a pain there. And I go in and, go through the same old story that I always go through. And yeah, I get the MRI results back. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You got a stress fracture." And so I was back to, okay, should I give up? Should I quit? What am I going to do? Um, and I, I, I basically turned to the one thing that I can kind of do even when I'm injured, which is hiking. And so, I didn't do it every day, didn't do it even 3, 4 days a week, but I would go out and I would hike up Maylands. And fortunately, it was spring and early summertime, and there's a lot of awesome hikes that we can do here in Utah, and so I was hitting all of them, right? I was doing Nebo, I was doing Timp, I was doing, um, Box Elder Peak. We did some fun trips. I went and did Kings Peak. I went and did some 14ers, and all these I was really having a great time. And as I was doing these, I was taking it really easy because I didn't want to make my fibula worse. Um, and I remember I had also signed up for the Bear 100, and I kind of had resigned in my mind, like, "Oh, well, I'm not gonna be able to do that this year either, so I'll forget about that." But as I was doing my hiking, my legs started feeling better. I started telling myself, "Okay, let me try running down just, really slow and easy." And I did that a couple times, and I was like, "Okay, I can kind of run a little bit." So that's when I reached out to you, and I was like, "Hey, Ryan, I know I'm only 12 weeks out, and this is not, you know, enough time to train for 100, but could you get me there if I just planned on hiking the whole thing?" Right? And I'm a tall guy. I've got pretty good stride. I'm like, I bet I could come in under 36 hours if I just speed walked it. Right? So can you get me there? And, so you gave me that plan. You said, "Yep, let's do it." In my mind, I was like, I don't know if I can do it, but I'm at least going to try, and I'm going to hit the start line, and I'm going to give it my best shot, and I'm going to walk this thing. So you did. You gave me the plan. I started working, and again, like as I started training, I'm like, my body's feeling good. I started going faster. Started running all the downhills. Started running some of the uphills, and I just felt myself getting in shape, getting faster, and I didn't
Dude,
get injured. Like, like, this is a one time. I'm like, I didn't get injured. I just kept feeling good.
I just have to add really quickly, like, it was crazy to see your body respond in, like, the most positive way because, like, I'm not gonna lie, I always, like, almost assume the worst with you, because I'm just like, "Dude, it just sometimes does not work with you." But like you said, I was like, "Hey, we're gonna just have you hiking like crazy," and all of a sudden you're like, "Dude, I decided I wanted to run down," like, I was running uphill and I was kinda running the flats, and then all of a sudden, well, no, I'm able to run the downhill. And then I'm like, what is happening? And then you're like, hey, I want to go do that 20-mile run with you. And that was like, I mean, again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I was when I started to believe in you. I was like, dude,
Yeah.
he's gonna do it.
Well, that's same with me. That's when I started to believe, and in the back of my mind, I was like, I was kind of sandbagging because I didn't want to like start getting all cocky, but I'm like, I think I can do this faster than 36 hours. And I started to map it out, and I'm like, there was a day when I was like, I bet I could do this in 30 hours. And I'm like, I don't want to tell Ryan this. I don't want to tell anybody this because I don't
Mhm.
think I can. I don't want to like fail and then just feel stupid. But
Yeah,
in my mind, I'm like, I think I can. I think I can do that. And I just, I got to the start line. I'm like, let's just do the best I can and let's see what happens.
that's cool. That's so awesome. I know. I remember, I remember us doing that 20-mile run. Me, you, and Sean Brock. We did the first 20 of the race. And it was fun to be there with you because I was being like Mr. Tour Guide. I'm like, "Okay, this is mile da 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 da." And you're probably like, "What an idiot." Like, "Okay, shut up, dude." I was all excited. I was like, "Oh man, I remember where I was at here." And I think everyone's like, "Dude, okay, shut up, Ryan." Like, it's not even funny. And I
I
just
don't remember.
remember,
I don't remember that part, but yeah, no, that was a fun run.
yeah, and I remember just like you were strong the whole time, and I remember being like, "I think he's got this. Like, he might pull this off." Until that ending when you guys decided to jump in the pool of water,
Exactly.
the death pool,
That didn't
dude.
end as bad for me as it did for Sean though. So
Dude, holy cow! Just for our listeners, I always like to throw in a fun story from every one of my guests that I have on, especially if we've shared a fun story. But at the end of our run, it was like we're running in August, I think it was. So it's warm, and So we get down to Lethem Hollow, which is essentially the second aid station of the race. So we're mile 20. And I don't know which one of you, was it Sean that found the pool of water?
No, it was me.
It
I
was
have to
you.
take responsibility. Yeah, because like me being the injured guy, I love looking for like a stream at the end so I can like put my legs in it and try to like do the whole anti-inflammatory thing. So I'm like, and then I see this pool. I'm like, might be deep enough to just jump in, and so yeah, I'm like tempting Sean, and I go jump in, and then I'm like swimming around. Oh, this feels great. You jump in. And next thing I know, Sean Sean's in the water, like screaming. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, dude? Like, what's your problem? And he's in there screaming like something bit him or he got hurt. And I'm like, okay, Sean, like you're good. Just toughen up here. And then I look over and I'm like, oh, like that rock fell in and landed on you. Like it was this big old boulder. And then I just started feeling bad because he was actually hurt. And I'm like, oh, I'm
I
so
should not
sorry.
be laughing this much about this. This is horrible. But I still remember him on the side of the pool, and he gets in, but because that rock caved in on the side of the path, it like trapped him under the water. And I'm sitting at the top watching this all go down, and I'm like, holy crap, I've got to jump in and save him.
Right.
But he comes back up.
And he's like gasping for air. I feel so bad.
Dude, and he was swearing like a sailor. Like, he's probably gonna kill me for sharing that, but oh my gosh, he was dropping the bombs, and I was like, okay, dude, like, and he's like, I think my foot's broke. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because he was training for the DC Peaks 50 at the time, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and he's like, I think my foot's really broke. And I remember being like, this pool is the death pool, man. And the funny thing is when we walked up to it, it had this ledge that you could walk up, and it looked like it was deep enough you could jump in. And I was this close to jumping into it. And I remember you being like, dude, it's so shallow. And I'm like, holy cow, I nearly, like, I totally missed something epically bad happening.
Oh yeah.
So
No, and I remember saying like, now Ryan, you actually got to jump in. We both did it. And you're like shying away.
I was like, I'm not getting in there. I'm like, you fell in, but luckily you didn't get hurt. Like, cause
Right.
that shoreline or whatever kind of caved in. And then Sean freaking gets trapped underneath by this rock and barely squirrels out. And anyways, dude, what a crap show. And I remember being like, dude, every time we do a group run or me and you do some kind of run, like, it seems like inevitably it's like a toss of a coin if some chaotic situation happens.
There's always something.
Yeah. I mean, as bad as that was, it was pretty memorable and pretty funny. But
I know.
anyways,
We've got so many stories we could tell. There's the box on the cow's head story. There's this skunk coming out of thin air. There's the buffalo that almost made me soil myself. Like, oh my gosh. And
yeah.
that's one thing I love about running is like there's always a fun story. There's always an adventure,
Yeah. Well, no, and that's the fun part is like, kind of like what I was mentioning with Tim on his episode is that's the thing I've loved about me and you and our adventures is like, it's just, there's always something, and we've made so many good memories. And like, it's so funny because sometimes you'll tell other people, and like, I'll come home and I'll tell Jess, my wife, and she's just like, what? And she doesn't get it. And I'm like, yeah, be there. I mean, like the cow incident, we're
Right.
running on the rail trail, like, the most unassuming location. Like, there should never be an issue whatsoever. We're 5 miles out along this path, and lo and behold, we come upon a baby calf that has a plastic trough on its head. And we're like, dude, and it's like, remember, it's like going around smacking into stuff, and it's like trying to like,
He's just wandering around.
yeah. And it's literally, it's like, it's got a freaking trough because it stuck its head in and it couldn't get it out. And so we're like, and Nate, like, cause he has a farm and he grew up on a farm and he has, animals. He's like, we got to go save it. And I'm always down for an adventure. So I'm like, let's do it. And my brother Kyle's like, this is going to end bad for me. Like, this is where something bad's going to happen. And he was right. But we were like, no, let's go. Come on. So me and you like hop the fence. We jump over this barbed wire fence. We're like all excited to get over there and pull this thing off. And Kyle's like, okay, I'll come help. And it was so funny because me and you both like get on the sides of this thing and we're ripping it off, right? Off of its head. And the cow freaks out, and because Kyle's in front trying to pull it off, and the cow freaks out and starts running him over, and he's like, guys, just stop. And he's like falling over.
Oh
And dude,
gosh.
we're just dying. We're just laughing. And we finally were able to pry that thing off of its head. And I remember there was, some other ladies that were out running that day. They're like, "Oh, that's so awesome. You guys did that," or whatever. But it's just like, it's these kind of situations that just make for such good memories with running. And like you said, like, this is why you love the social aspect. I do too. Like, I'm a huge proponent of it. That's why I love the group runs and all that. Cause you just have these stories that you're like,
Yeah.
dude, like, nobody would probably experience that unless you were out there that day running. Just
I mean, I've
crazy,
had some
man.
of the craziest stories happen when I was running. I told you about the time I saved a horse.
Yeah.
Like that's even more unbelievable. Like, we won't get into that, but there's just so many fun stories out there.
Yeah. Or the time you and Wicker did King's Peak. I'm just kidding. We won't go down that
We
story either.
ran out of water. Oh my gosh.
Anyways, all right. Talk about Bear. Let's hear about how the Bear 100 went for you. Love to hear this story.
Yeah, so I was just so nervous, like, and I had invited my family up to stay at a cabin, to help pace and crew me, and so, like, I had all this family there. I don't know if I can actually finish a 100-mile race, and little did I know, like, behind my back, they were actually, like, placing bets on whether I was gonna finish or not, and most people bet that I was not gonna finish. They're like, "No, he's not gonna finish a 100-miler." Anyway, but I was nervous. I'm like, I really wanna finish this. I wanna do it. I wanna do well." Um, and so I just remember, like, the night before, not being able to sleep, showing up at the start line, and I'm kind of a data nerd, so I look at my body battery on my Garmin, and I wake up, and I'm like, I wasn't even up to 50%. All
Body
my
battery.
metrics were just in the toilet,
Yeah.
and so I'm telling myself, "This is gonna be an absolute nightmare," and I'm looking at everybody else, like, listening to their kind of pre-race jitters, and just nervous, like, almost to the point of feeling sick, having an upset stomach, and so at that point is when you start trying to talk yourself out of it, right? You're like, "What why am I doing this? I should just take the DNF, like, try to keep some dignity and not have this all fall apart in front of my whole family."
Yeah.
But, as you say, like, I'm stubborn. I'm not just gonna turn around and go home. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna give it the best shot I can, and we'll see what happens. So, we get at the start line, you and I start going, right? And I love your strategy of, don't burn out early, start slow, especially on the uphill. Save your strength and your energy for later in the race. So we did that, and I felt pretty good, although my heart rate was like 10 beats per minute higher than usual. So I was nervous about that. I'm like, why was my heart rate not going down? I'm gonna burn out too quick. Um, so that whole uphill, I was feeling pretty tired, right? Definitely, it was harder to do that first 20 miles during the actual race than when we went and ran it with me, you and Sean. And so I
Yeah.
was a little nervous about that. But we get to the top of to the Logan
Logan
Peak
Peak.
aid station, and I was like, okay, this is my shot. I gotta go. Like, I gotta just turn it up and make this happen. And part of it was fear, like, I don't know that I'm gonna finish the race unless I start to go a little bit faster now. And the other part was, let's see what I can do. But, but yeah, I remember when I started doing that and we had that 10 miles of downhill, and I just pushed probably too hard. I mean, that section after Logan Peak where there's lots of boulders and rocks, and it's just a rough road going down.
Yep.
I was doing that at like 10 to 12-minute miles, or probably
Wow.
closer to 10. And there were a
Wow.
couple times I kind of twisted my ankle a little bit, but I just kept going and I was passing people. And that's when the adrenaline kicked in and I just started feeling good. So I ran that whole 10 miles down to Lethem. Um, and I think that's when I was like, "Okay, I can do this." Like, I seriously started to believe that I could make it happen.
That's awesome. I remember at mile 10 when you kind of left me. It was after I ate crap on a rock, and dude, I slammed that ground so
Oh my
hard. I
gosh, I
remember
was worried about
I
you.
I know, and it was funny because 'cause I've heard from everybody that you were really worried about me, which I appreciate, but I remember I got up and I was just all dusty, and you were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good," and I'm, like, shaking because 'cause I'm, like,
Oh,
that
yeah.
initial shock after, but you look so strong, and I remember being like, "Just go, dude, just go," and I remember motioning to you, just like, "Just go, man,
Yep.
like, you're doing great," and I didn't want you to slow down because you look strong, and I was like, maybe I'll catch you, maybe I won't," and I should have known that would be the last time I'd see you in that race, but I was constantly checking in with just my crew. I was like, "I need you guys to give me updates, like, how's he doing?" Because we were fortunate that we had, one of my crew had Starlink, Cody Vabel. I just appreciate Cody for just being such a stud and bringing that up and letting us use it. So I was able to track you. I was able to track Ken Swalberg, just other people. It was awesome, and just see how everyone was progressing.
No, I remember when you took that fall, like, you literally Supermaned downhill. Like, if you had seen yourself, you were just totally horizontal with the ground. You hit the ground, but then you just rolled and stood up, and I'm like, "How did he do that? That's amazing." Like, I feel like I would have, like, broken a bone if I would have fallen like that, but you kept going, and, yeah, after a couple miles, like you said, I was like, I gotta go," and I felt bad for leaving you, because on the one hand, I'm like, "It'd be so fun to run this together," but on the other hand, like I said, I was like, "If I don't make ground right now, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this thing."
Yeah. I'm so glad you did. I really am. I mean that. Like, I didn't want you to stay with me. I mean, yes, would it be sweet if me and you ran 100 miles together the whole time? Of course, dude. Like, and if you were like, I'm just here for you. Like, I just want to get across. Like, for sure, let's do that, right? But this was your first 100. Like, go live your dream. And that was my sixth. Like, I'm not. This isn't my first rodeo. This is special for you. This is whatever it is for me. So, what happened after you left Lethem? Like, how did the next? Because I know that that section for me is always really tough because it's just this constant climb. It's warm, the sun's out,
Yep.
there's multiple exposed sections. What was it like from then there up to Upper Richard?
So, like, yeah, coming into Lethem, I was like, I felt like I was on top of the world. Like, I was going fast on the downhill. My body felt good. I wasn't too hot. I was doing a really good job at following my fueling plan. Like, my fueling plan was basically, I was trying to do about 1 liter of Gatorade per hour. And,
Yeah,
I was trying to just go by thirst, but I had taken a sweat test. I knew how much electrolytes I lose per hour. So I was also supplementing with 250 milligrams of sodium about every 30 minutes, and then taking the Gatorade, and then the Huma Energy or whatever, just pounding those every 20 to 30 minutes, and my body felt good. I wasn't getting upset stomach, like so coming into Lethem, I had a little bit of breakfast. I didn't even want that much. Um, but that's like you said, like that's when the sun really starts hitting you. There's more uphill. You start to like it starts to set in like I've still got a long ways to go.
yeah,
So I kind of did that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna settle into a power walk for a little bit on this uphill. I'm gonna try to not overdo it in the sun because you are exposed for a long period of time at that point, and I didn't wanna have that, like, scorch me, so I did that. I just kinda locked into a fast power walk and stayed with that until I got into Richards, and again, then at that point, I opened up a little bit and started getting some more running and improving my pace, but I just wanted to get through that because I knew you told me that was a mentally tough part of the race. I knew
yeah.
it was gonna be hard. It was actually probably the second hardest point of the race for me, and just getting through it felt good.
That's awesome. How did the next, 20 miles or so go? Because the beautiful thing about leaving Upper Richard is then it's down to Right-Hand Fork, more or less.
Yeah.
It's basically downhill and it's pretty running and it's so
Yes.
runnable.
Oh, yeah.
I love that, and then from there, you're basically heading over to Tony Grove, but how did that next
Yeah.
20-ish miles go for you?
The next section was great. Like, I saw a couple friends. I ran into Michael Whiteside. He was looking like he was feeling great. I ran with him a little bit. He was in super great spirits. So it was fun to see someone else. I still hadn't had my pacers come in yet. Um, and again, like you said, it's beautiful. The temps were great. I was just feeling good. Trying not to burn out again. Still, I was trying not to go too fast, but I was able to like, pick it up a little bit and get some running in and really like bank some time. I really felt like I was banking a lot of time because I was worried about the night. I was worried about the climb to Tony Grove, and so that was probably one of the most fun sections of the race for me.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, how did that climb to Tony Grove go for you? I'm sure did you do it in the
Yeah.
dark or was
Uh,
I mean, you were at least a couple hours ahead of me. Maybe you got there before the sun had set, but, how was that climb? 'Cause that notoriously, everyone hates that climb,
yeah.
and
No, it was bad, like, it was light for most of that time. I didn't when I got to Tony Grove, it was dark, but it had just barely gotten dark.
okay,
So I started that climb in the sunlight. It was hot, like, I was too hot, actually.
yeah,
Um, and and by the time I got kind of close to Tony Grove, it was dark. It was starting to get colder, so I was starting to feel a little bit chilled, and I was to the point where I was like, "Hey, I've got to like add some layers and stuff." But the climb in general, I did not feel very good. Like my chest was starting to hurt. I was starting
yeah,
to get a little bit worried. Like, is this my heart? Like, what is there a problem with my heart? Because again, my chest was hurting,
yeah,
um, and and so I tried to really like not push too hard and moderate it a little bit and be like, I got to save myself for the night. But my first pacer was there, my sister Charlotte, and she was super positive, so she helped. Um, and we met a couple friends on the trail and we were chatting and trying to stay as positive as possible. But again, that part for me was just like I want to get through this because I know there's a good amount of downhill coming after Tony Grove, and so I was just happy to get to the top.
yeah, Tony Grove, I mean, I love once you get to Tony Grove because, like you said, that climb is a little bit mean,
Yep,
but once you get past that, it's pretty nice running and pretty
yep,
clean. Until about couple miles before, Beaver Mountain
yep.
at mile 75. Um, yeah, take us to that or
Yeah,
take us
totally.
from
So
Tony Grove.
Tony Grove
Uh,
was awesome because like, my parents were there. They kinda were helping crew at that point. It was fun to see them, and Claire was there. I knew she was gonna be with me all night, so I was really excited to see Claire, and Tony Grove is just a fun aid station. Like, it's gotta be the best aid station of the whole race. It felt
yeah,
like a party. There was they have all their pizza stations, like, the food was
yeah,
good, and I was hungry. Like, I felt like eating. I had a few slices of pizza. They were super delicious. Whoever did that aid station, like, kudos to
yeah,
them. So that was fun. And then just, putting on some cold gear, getting ready for the night, taking a little bit of a sit down. Like that was the first aid station where I feel like I really sat down and and rested for 5 or 10 minutes. Before that, I was just like in and out of those aid stations so fast. But so going out of Tony Grove, I felt really good. Claire was there. It was cooling down. My chest wasn't hurting anymore. Like it was starting to feel better.
yeah,
And so, that whole night was just it was a fun part of the race, like, you know how the night gets, like, you
yeah,
start getting a little bit loopy, but Claire and I were chatting and laughing, having a good time, and we were meeting people on the trail, and, there was one part I thought we were lost, like, I really legitimately thought we'd got taken the wrong path, but we were good, like, after a while, we saw someone and we knew we were on the right path, and it's also just a really pretty section too, like, you almost wish that it was light at that point because 'cause you're up
yeah,
by Naomi Peak and White Pine and all that stuff, and it's really
yeah.
pretty back there, but it was a fun part.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that whole section too. Like you said, it's disappointing that we're always there at night, but
Right.
it's pretty. It's pretty. Well, how did, getting to, how was it to getting to Beaver Mountain and then leaving Beaver Mountain?
At Beaver Mountain, I started, like I said, the night was fun, it was long. By the time I got to Beaver Mountain, I was starting to feel a little bit chilled. The fatigue was definitely setting in. I still knew that I had, what was it, 40 miles left. I still knew I had a long ways to go. Um, so that was a little bit more mentally challenging getting into that. And again, like I had to put on even warmer clothes because for some reason, Beaver Mountain, that area was colder than any other part of the race. That getting into like the Franklin Basin.
Y Yeah, I was gonna say it was Franklin Basin. Franklin Basin's the next aid station after Tony Grove. Beaver
Oh,
Mountain's at mile 75. I apologize.
yes.
I
No,
got
no.
you confused there.
You're good. It's still a blur in some ways at that point, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was getting cold at that point. But so I switched off pacers. Nora, my 16-year-old daughter, took over there, and it was fun to see her. Like my brother Johnny was there, and yeah, it was fun to see those guys, and it's always fun to kind of have a new pacer and just a little bit of a change of pace and
yeah.
but yeah, Nora and we were cold, like coming out of Beaver Mountain, it was just cold. Like I was wishing I had warmer clothes on at that point.
What time did you leave Beaver Mountain? Do you remember what time it was in the middle of the night?
I wanna say it was, like, 5 or 6 in the morning. Maybe
Okay.
it might have been a little earlier than that, but it was
'Cause
yeah,
I got there, I think it was 6:30, and so
okay.
and I know you had quite a bit of time. Now I slowed down my last little bit, so I bet you were there at, like, 3:30 or 4, that's my
That
guess.
sounds right, that sounds right, yeah, 'cause it kept getting colder after Beaver, like, to the
Yeah.
next aid station after that, it just kept getting colder until, like, 5:30 or 6, and then finally it started warming up a little bit.
Yeah, and I totally get you, like, those that aids like, that section, I always think between Tony Grout mile 50 to Beaver Mountain at mile 75, that 25-ish miles, whatever it is, 24, 25, it is always so cold, and I know that's, like, the most that I forget what it's called, but it's, like, the coldest recorded spot in the continental United States
Oh,
is
really?
right there. I forget
I
what
didn't
it's
know that.
called, but, yeah, there's some Bluff or whatever it's called. I forget right now. I should have looked it up, but yeah, it's cold and you're freezing. Like if you don't get moving, you're cold. And I forget what aid station is. I think it's Logan River. I think it's mile 68, 69, something like that. I remember getting to that aid station myself, and I sat down and I sat next to the fire, and I remember my pacer, Ryan Bruce, was just like, "Hey, it's time to go." And I was like, it's one of the few times I've ever been like, "I don't want to." I'm like,
Yeah,
"I just want to stay here because it's so
yeah,
cold." And I think for me, that was like 3 in the morning, 3:30, something like that. And I was like, "I don't want to leave, man. Like, I
yeah,
really like against it right now." So, anyways,
yep.
um, take us through the rest of the race, man. How did it go?
Yeah, so it was fun going with my daughter Nora, and, we were moving at a pretty decent pace. It was nice to get past the cold and, like, the sun came out, started warming up a little bit, and coming up through that area, like, above Beaver Mountain was just really pretty. Like, the leaves that year were just incredible, and I just kept taking pictures and, like, just thinking, "Man, this is so incredible up here." So that made it fun. Like for me, that's one of the things I love about running and being out in the mountains is like I love just the sights and the views. And so like that was a big like mental boost for me. But we went through and Nora switched off. I think it was at Logan River, I believe, or maybe it was at Beaver Creek. I can't remember what it was, but that's where Amy picked up, and she was my last pacer.
For the last
Um,
15.
for the
Yeah.
last 15,
Yeah,
so,
great. Yeah.
yeah, that would've been a mile 85, so, um, I was feeling pretty good, but you know that at that point in the race, your body's starting to hurt pretty bad. The fatigue's setting in. I was I was to the point where I'm like, I am just so tired of uphills that I don't know that I can do any more uphills. Like I can do flat, I can do downhill. I just don't want to do any more uphills. And one of some of those last little uphill pushes, I just remember looking at my map and being like, okay, I've got 1,000 feet of vert, I've got 500 feet of vert, and it just felt like so much more than that. That last little uphill before you go over the ridge and you look down into,
Ranger
uh,
yeah, Ranger diff,
Ranger
that
Dip.
500 it's 500 feet over, like, a half mile.
Yes, like, that almost broke me. I was, like, so tired, and I knew I was close. I'm like, I knew I was there. I just had to do that last little climb, and it felt like it was 5 times as long as it should have been. So that was hard. Getting over that after that, I felt like the adrenaline kicked in, and I don't know how it happened, but Amy was like, I looked over to Amy, my sister, and I'm like, "Hey, if I can keep up a 10.5 minute mile pace the rest of the time, I'll break 30 hours." And she was like, "Okay, let's do it." I'm like, "No, I'm telling you that, but I can't do that." And she's like, "No, let's do it." And so
That's
like
awesome.
we start running, and I probably ran for 5 miles at like 10.5 minute mile pace. And like the adrenaline just kicked in. I was doing it and I was feeling really good. And then all of a sudden it just hit me. I'm like, "Okay, I can't keep doing this." Like my legs started hurting more, my
Yep.
chest started hurting more, so I had to slow down. But that, like, 5 miles, I was passing people, and they were all like, "Wow, dude, good pace, good job, strong finish." Um, but, yeah, I think that was the point where I was like, "I know I'm done. I know I can finish the race at this point."
That's cool. That's cool. So how did it finish? Like, how was it coming through that finish line?
Oh gosh. So, yeah, like, that last 5 miles, it was just kinda surreal. Like, at that point you can finish.
Yep.
I knew I wasn't gonna quite hit 30 hours. I ended up hitting, like, 30 hours and 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
but I was super happy with it overall. Like I just
Yeah.
felt good. My body still felt surprisingly good. I remember my good friend Spencer Wicker, he was going to be at the finish line, he and his family and Katie and the kids. And he called me when I was like 3 miles out and he was just like, dude, you're doing so good. Like, how you feeling? And I just kind of got a little emotional at that time because that's when it hit me. Like, I'm going to finish. Um, I did it, and that how it feels. Like you just start feeling grateful for all your friends and your family for supporting you, and you've got like the running endorphins hit you and you kind of get emotional. And I remember the times when I've paced you on Wasatch and on Bear and it always hits you at about the same time. Like you just kind of break down and I kind of had that happen a little bit where I got emotional but it was a good feeling. Like you just feel good. And so I came around, finished the last hill, and then you hit the road and I think I ran like the last half mile and
Yeah.
just coming in through the finish line, seeing the family there. Um, it just kind of felt surreal, but it was good. So,
Yeah.
um, was glad to be done. Grateful that I was able to do it. Surprised that my body held up. Honestly, like that was the most surprising part for me. Was just like I'm surprised my body held up as good as it did.
That's so awesome. Well, 2 things I've loved this podcast. It's been different. I really haven't touched on many of my questions that I have because you've done a great job addressing so many different things here, um, which has just been great because it's just been the natural flow, which is how I love these things to go. But, 2 thoughts that come to my head is, something you said on a podcast that me and you were on one time together with Jacob Bateman on Trail to 100. Um, you said that end of races and it just amplifies your emotions. Running does, and it's so true. Like you said, there's a part on every 100 where I break down, and so to hear you say the same thing, like it's real, and it's not so much you're breaking down like you're disappointed or you're sad. It's more of like I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna happen now, and there's just no because you spend 90 something miles wondering if you're gonna finish. You do every time.
Yep.
And then there's just some time it's for me, it's always 92 because I'm like, I can do 8 miles in my sleep. 8 miles was like my sexy distance, if you will.
Yeah.
Back when I first got into running, I'm like, I can do 8 miles any day of the year. And so I always feel like if I got 8 miles left, I'll finish no matter what. Like if I had to truly run, at the end of a marathon or end of a 100 miler, I'll run that last 8 miles to get that finish line. So that's really cool. The last thing that I would just say, just about the Bear 100 for you, man, is I was just so proud of you, man. Like for you to go through everything you have since I've known you since 2018 and for you to just go through, let's call it what it is, pure hell at times with your injuries, with setbacks, with disappointments, if you will, with just getting so close on the marathon and Boston qualifying and, I don't know if it's a disappointment. I think you still are grateful for that whole experience, but to go through everything you have and then, at times not that I've ever felt like, you're my right-hand person, but you've always been there to support me on races and you've never had your shot to be the one that goes and does 100 and for you to go on your first one and you just destroy it. And again, I'm not trying to compare you to other people, but lots of runners in this area, you beat them with your time. And this is your first 100 and you do that. Um, wow. Just wow. Like I'm so proud of you. It was an honor to work with you to get you there. I'm not trying to use this podcast to advertise my coaching too much. It is what it is. I just was so proud of you. And I was like, man, I remember hearing from Cody Vabel, who was pacing me at that time, and he's like, Nate just finished. And dude, I just broke down crying. I was like, yes, dude, like let's go. Let's go. That's what I love to hear. So dude, it was a cool moment for me to hear you finish that and just just to obliterate and crush a race that, you know, it just everything you've gone through. So it was really cool.
Thanks. That means a lot, and like I that you've said this before, but I think one of the cool things about especially the 100-mile distance. I mean, it's the case with all running, but especially the 100-mile distance. It is not just a one person sport. Like it's a team effort, And when you're running, you do start to feel gratitude for all the people that helped you. Like your family makes a sacrifice for you to spend the time. You coached me, you got me there. I didn't think I could do it. You got me a plan. You helped motivate me. You brought me through the times when I, was struggling with this or with that, mental things, physical things. And so, I look back and I was like, I was super grateful for you and for your help, for my family. And, um, and so, yeah, like I said, it's not a one person thing, but you do just kind of feel that gratitude. And I remember the first time you finished Wasatch as well. Like I remember how proud I felt of you. I honestly didn't think you could do it. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think you could do it. 100 miles just seemed out of reach, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when you did Wasatch, I was like, man, that is amazing. And I think a lot of people thought that. I remember my family was helping pace and crew you, Claire and the kids. They were just like they couldn't stop talking about Ryan Head finishing Wasatch 100, and and so it is fun to see other people do it, but it was fun to do it myself as well. So
Yeah. Well, you did amazing, dude. And I think that's only the fitting way to end this episode and this podcast episode, like just so amazing. I mean, it was for everything that you went through and really dialing into your why and keeping your why the focus over all these years. And then just come so close with Boston qualifying, and then you go into a 100 miler and you obliterate it. Like, well, it's just so cool, dude. Just so cool. So, um, I got a few last questions I'll throw at you really quickly. I know we're getting long here, but I appreciate you taking the time to interview and meet with me today.
yeah,
I call
totally.
this a lightning round because
Okay.
it's kind of fun. Just throw and you can make it a quick one word answer, or you can explain a little bit. I'm not going to put too many rules on it, but I like to throw this. I'm going to throw this at all my guests. So, favorite race distance.
Gosh, lightning round. So I think 100 is now my new favorite.
Let's go. Let's
Yeah.
go. That's
Yeah.
right. That's awesome. Cool. Okay. Love it. Love it. Road or trails?
Trails, 100%.
Nice. I think you've definitely transitioned to that for sure, just with how much you like to hike and you've elaborated on it here. So that's awesome. Morning or evening runs?
Oh, you know me, evening runs. I'm not a morning person. As much as I love to see the sunrise, I'm an evening run guy.
Yeah, I know it. I know every time we get him up to do a morning run with us and he shows up, it's always funny. I'm like, don't talk to him for a minute.
I
He's
know.
he
I keep
doesn't.
telling Claire, I'm like, when is Ryan gonna, like, stop doing these early morning runs? Like, at some point, his kids are gonna become teenagers, and they're gonna force him to stay up late, and then he's gonna know that it's not cool to wake up at, 5 AM on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's awesome. Favorite post run meal?
Oh, man, I love, like, a good cheeseburger after, like, an ultra, especially, like, you just crave certain things, and for me, like, Crown Burger or, like, just, like, any burger sounds really good after a race.
Awesome. Okay, last one I'll throw at you. Or maybe there's two questions, two parts to this question. I've done that so far with all the guests. Music, podcasts, or silence on runs?
Music, 100%. I've tried
Mm.
podcasts and stories, and I found that if I'm on a really hard run, it kinda ruins the story for me, like, I don't know why, or I'll lose focus, like, I'll stop listening to the story. I'm so focused on my running. Um, and I like silence sometimes, but man, I love just like having a good playlist to run to. It helps me perform better. It makes it more enjoyable. I love music as you do, and so that's 100%. I pick music.
Awesome. Okay, what's on your playlist right now?
Oh man, I'm changing my playlist all the time. Like you're one of the people that probably looks at mine and shakes their head sometimes. I'll go from like John Prine or Johnny Cash to like Tool, right? I mean, honestly, like
I
I'm
love
and
it.
everywhere in between. When I was doing Bear, I listened to Enya for like an hour, and like I feel kind of embarrassed to even say that,
And yeah, I
but
love it.
then yeah, like when I'm doing like when I pull out and I listen to like my Tool playlist, or I also really like Like the Strokes are a good one for me.
Nice, yeah.
Like I like variety. I'll listen to everything classical. I'll listen to metal. I'll listen to hard rock, soft rock, like country. It lately, I think lately my I've been looking at a lot of like 80s. It's like indies, indie 80s, like alternative 80s. That's kind of what I've been into lately.
That's awesome. Dude, that's cool. Enya. Wow.
No, it was like, for some reason, I was just kind of in the mood. I'm listening to Rush for a while, and then I'm like, what do I want to listen to? Enya. So I put it on there, and like it was inspiring. It felt good. So then
That's
after
awesome.
that, like I forgot what I did after that. I think it was like Metallica or something. I can't remember. But
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, last 2 questions. Sorry, these will be the last 2 questions,
no,
so
you're good.
promise. What would you say to someone who maybe has lost their why or are totally discouraged?
So like sometimes I'll look at running and I'll be like, this is just a goofy thing that we do, and it's worked for me, and I find a lot of enjoyment in it. But I don't think everybody should do running. Like, if you lost your why, I would say that's fine. Like, get passionate about something else. And what I think may end up happening to them, because I know it probably would to me, is you'll run again when you get excited about it, right?
Yeah,
Like, one of the things that makes me sad sometimes is when I watch kids that get pushed really hard in high school track and cross country to the point where they don't even enjoy it anymore. And
yeah,
that's one thing I'm really careful about with my kids is like I invite them to go on hikes, I invite them to go on runs, but if they don't want to, I don't pressure them because if you're not running for the pure love of going out and running, then you shouldn't be running.
yeah,
So if you lose your why, like I wouldn't stress about it. Um, you know, be patient, wait for it. Find something that you are passionate about. Maybe it's running, maybe it's music, maybe you wanna learn a musical instrument, maybe you wanna get into art, like, there's lots of different things that can bring you enjoyment. I love woodworking, I love, like, working with animals and building things, and that's a really, big passion for me too. And I don't know if running is gonna always be my thing, like, maybe I'll hit 60 and I'll be like, "Ah, I think I'm done. I wanna do some woodworking." Like, I wanna focus on horses. I wanna go out and do a lot more horseback riding and take them out on trails. Like, if it's your why, just, like, make it fun, enjoy it, um, don't put pressure on yourself and like, push yourself unnaturally, and I think that'll just make it more enjoyable.
cool. No, I love it. I love it. I actually 100% agree with that. You don't wanna push yourself. If you need a break for a minute, take the break, you know? And I'm sure it'll come back. It always has for me anytime I've ever kinda felt a little bit burned out, so I love that. Great sound advice. Last question, same question I ask everybody that comes on here. What is that last bit, whatever it is, of your why? What is the one last thing that maybe you didn't share it at the beginning of this, and maybe you're like, no, I shared everything about my why. There's nothing else left. But what is that last little bit of your why you do all of this?
I think there are lots of reasons. My wife might tell you that one of my reasons is that I'm a little OCD, or like I'm trying to deal with mental health issues. I do have anxiety. I naturally tend toward getting depression. Running helps with those things. Like it helps with my
Yeah,
mental health. It makes me happier. Um, you know, so I think that's a big part. The one last thing I will share that I don't think I brought up is it's adventure, like, it's
yeah,
freedom, it's adventure, it's getting out and doing fun things, like, as an adult, you get so bogged down in the day-to-day, providing for your family, solving problems at work, trying to eat healthy, trying to stay in shape, like, it's nice to just say, like, "Okay, I love my family, I would do anything for my family, but, like, I'm tired of all the obligations, I just wanna go do something fun. I wanna feel free for a little bit, and nothing, for me, does that more than going out on a long trail run, and just forgetting about everything else, focusing on that one thing, and just
yeah.
enjoying and being present in the moment. So
That's
adventure and fun.
That's cool, and I get that, like you said, it's not that you don't love your family, and it's not that you don't love, having a job and all that other stuff, but sometimes you gotta be it's like you gotta be a little selfish, you gotta be like, "For right now, I'm gonna be about me. I'm gonna go live an adventure, and I'm gonna go have some fun with it, and it's going to be exhilarating. So I love
Yeah,
that, dude.
you know, it's like, so my wife and I talk about this because we're in a stage of life where we are just extremely busy. You are too. Like, you know how it goes. You got work, you got family. It's like we're at the busiest stage with our family we've ever been. I'm at the busiest stage with my work that I've ever been. I'm at the busiest stage with my yard and my farm stuff that I've ever been. And all that's so overwhelming sometimes. But like my wife and I sit down, Claire and and we go through our calendar every week. You look through and you say, okay, what are the things you would drop if you could? And, we've even gone through the exercise of saying, like, if you could pick one thing that's like your unicorn activity, right? The one thing that you wanna prioritize for yourself, what is it? And for me, this is what it is. It's running,
That's
or
awesome.
it's hiking. And at this point in my life, that is what it is. And it's fun, and I prioritize and I make it happen.
Dude, I love it, man. And I get that. That's super cool. And you should, right? We got one opportunity on this earth to do it and try to do it the best we possibly can. So I love it, dude. Well, cool, dude. Thank you so much. It's been seriously the best having you on here. Again, I appreciate you in so many ways, not just with running, but just as a good friend, someone that I know I can rely on if I need something. I know you'd be there in a minute. So, my one last question or thought, I brought this up with Tim when he was on here, and he's someone that I'd love to have on as a co-host periodically. I almost would throw the same thing at you. Would you be willing to ever help me co-host a couple of these episodes, especially with trail runners?
Totally. Yeah, I'd love to.
That'd be awesome.
No, I think it's fun. It's fun to think about, like, and I love the theme of your podcast because it's fun to kinda understand what drives other people, right?
Yeah,
Being able to hear their why, and also hear some of their fun stories. Like, everybody's got their own stories, everybody's got their own background, and it's inspiring to hear, what drives people. So, yeah, I'd love to.
that'd be awesome, dude. I'd love to have you. It's been fun, and I know the reason why I asked you and I asked and Tim, and I think I'll leave it at that for now. Maybe I'll ask more people eventually one day, but I think of you two because we know each other very well. We can bounce things off of each other, so it would just be awesome. So I appreciate you being willing to do that. So,
Sweet.
anyways,
Excited. Looking forward to it. Yeah,
dude,
thanks for having me. It's fun catching up and talking through all this. I forget half this stuff sometimes, and it brings back a lot of fun memories. So,
yeah,
thank you.
awesome. Well, cool, dude. Thank you again for your time tonight, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you for listening.
Awesome.
Hey runner, thanks for hanging out with me today on Reimagine Running. I'm grateful you're here and a part of this great podcast. I just want to remind you, if you ever feel stuck, unsure, or just want someone in your corner, I do offer coaching for runners at any distance. Whether you're starting out with the 5K or you're chasing some crazy big goals and dreams like the marathon or the 100-miler, I'd love to help you. Please reach out and I'd be happy to set up a time to go over options and plans and goals with you. Well, until next time, take care of yourself, trust the process, stay disciplined, and keep chasing that why.